Erev Tov, everyone. The Parsha Pekudei, the Torah reviews for us everything that went before in the previous four Parshas regarding the Mishkan, and the Torah gives us exact figures as to the materials that were used and what was then, so to speak, created or manufactured from those materials. The Torah mentions that Ele Pekudei HaMishkan Asher Pukad Al Yedei Moshe. Moshe is the one who's the overall manager, kablan of the Mishkan. But he had Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur, Lamata Yehuda, V'ito imo Eliyav ben Achisomach Lamata Don, who were the actual, we would say, of foremen, the one that the managers of the project. Why do you need two? The first question is, why do you need one? If Moshe is running it, let Moshe run it. So the Mefarshim point out that, so to speak, is not Moshe's forte. And that the Rabbanu Shalom assigns tasks according to people's abilities and talents. And the fact that Moshe is our teacher and that the Torah comes from Moshe and the Torah's Moshe Avdi does not make him a builder. And people often confuse that. People think that because someone is very talented in one area of life, that that person has influence and talent in other areas of life as well. There's a whole industry of athletes who endorse products. What's the connection? There is no connection. Many times the athlete probably has an IQ of 80. But just because he can shoot a basketball, but the world doesn't see it that way. The world always transfers talent in one area to expertise in all areas. And that's a difficulty. I mentioned to you a number of times when I was young and foolish. Now, Baruch Hashem, I'm old and foolish. But when I was young and foolish, so I remember I was in my father-in-law's house. My father-in-law was an old-time Litvish Rav. And a question in halacha arose. Someone asked something, right? And my father-in-law said, he thought about it, and he said his psak. When the person left, and I was alone with my father-in-law, it's his 30th yard site now. So I said to him, Pa, the Mishnah Berurah says just the opposite. Are you paskin against the Mishnah Berurah? Which is not a smart thing for a son-in-law to say. but he was very forgiving to me. He really loved me, and I loved him. So he said, Beryl Gay, bring me an Aruch HaShulchan. Go to the bookcase, find the Aruch HaShulchan. Found the Aruch HaShulchan. He says, Cook, find that particular question that he discusses. And I found it, and I saw the Aruch HaShulchan decided completely against the Mishnah Berurah, and that my father-in-law had decided like the Aruch HaShulchan. I was abashed. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't know that Aruch HaShulchan. So he said to me, you should know, he said, the Aruch HaShulchan is given a Rav. Rabbi Michal Epstein, who was the Aruch HaShulchan, who was the father of the Torah Tmima, and he was the brother-in-law of the Netziv of Volozhin. He was a Rav. He was a Rav in Avaradok all of his years. He says the Chafetz Chaim is given a tzaddik. The Chafetz Chaim was a tzaddik. He said, we pass him like a Rav, not like a tzaddik. Which was a great lesson to me. It doesn't, the Chas V'Sholem diminish the Chafetz Chaim in any way. But when it comes to this, so you just because somebody's an expert surgeon doesn't mean that he can fix your car. That doesn't make him less of a surgeon. But if you want your car to run, you're going to go to a mechanic, to someone that knows automobiles, no matter how great the surgeon may be in intellect. So therefore, the Torah eliminated Moshe. Moshe is Moshe Rabbeinu. There's even a shita that says a radical thing. Most radical things are in the sforim of the Hasidic Rebbeim, because they could get away with it. That one of the reasons that Moshe didn't take the Jewish people into Eretz Yisrael, and that Yoshua did, is because Yoshua was a better soldier. We saw that Yoshua could conquer Amalek. He had experience. Moshe never went to war. So later on, Moshe goes to war against Og and against Sichon. But Yoshua is the commander of the army.
That he won the lottery.
And because of that, therefore, if you're going there to Israel and you're going to have to fight the Shiva Amim, so we got to get the right person. So why do we have, so that, so to speak, removes Moshe from the question of why Moshe doesn't build the Mishkan. What does he need two people? Why does he need both Bezalel and Oholiav? So the Torah itself indicates it. Because by Oholiav, the Torah emphasizes a number of times, Lachshov Machshovos. What does that mean? It said it by Bezalel also, but it's emphasized by Oholiav a number of times. Lachshov Machshovos, he's able to think. He has thoughts. In the general sense, we would say he was creative. He saw it, great artists, great people of talent. But they said, Michelangelo said that he saw the statue in the piece of marble and he just chipped away. So Lachshov Machshovos means that he had imagination. He had creativity. He was out of the box. You need a person like that. had a friend of mine that was the head of an architectural firm. He had architects that worked for him. So he told me he had two types of architects. One that were experts in the engineering. The lights should work, where you should put the heating, the plumbing should work, the foundation should exist. Those were the plans they drew. And then he said he had people who thought out of the box, who were designers, who saw what the beauty of the building should look like. He said, and you needed both, because you can have a beautiful building, and if the electricity doesn't work, it's of no value. But you can have a building that's very functional, but it has no spirit or life to it, no design to it. So Bezalel is the functional architect. And Oliov is the designer. He's Lachshov Machshovos. He has the imagination to see things. And that's why it says Lachshov Machshovos. So by Oliov it says in the Betcheles Bar Goman, he saw the tapestries. You have to design them. How do they look? The Torah doesn't specify. And in a general sense, I would say that refers to Torah generally. And it certainly refers to the realms of machshava and halacha, which do not always coincide. And the greatness of Torah is that you can see in it, Torah is a Rorschach test. You can see in it whatever you want. More than anything else, it reflects you. But you need imagination. Over the ages, the tremendous amount of chidushim in Torah, of new ideas that we would never see from the text, but that are somehow now integral to the way we think about Torah and about Jewish life. And that's why Chazal say on the Posuk of Mishpotim Bal Yedom, the Torah Shebiksav, the non-Jewish world also took. They have Bibles. The congressional delegation that just visited Israel, so there were 46 members of the United States House of Representatives who came. 30 were Republicans and 16 were Democrats. They all came with, each one brought a Bible. But someone who was present with them all the time told me that the Democrats bought Bibles that never were used before, brand new. And the Republicans bought Bibles that were underlined and dog-eared. He said that was the difference between them. But the idea, the Bible is book. It's a book. It's it's words, it's sentences, etc. Where do you see in it the soul? That's Mishpotim Bal Yedom. That's Torah Shabbal Peh. That's all the chidushim over the ages. It's every idea that's expressed in the Gemara. It's all the contradictions, the questions and answers, the debate. All of that is the design of the Torah. So just like the Mishkan needed Bezalel, and it needs Oliov, and Psak needs Rabbonim, and it needs Tzadikim, so too when it comes to Torah. It needs people that are Lachshov Machshovos, that are able to see in it what others did not yet see. And that's what makes it a Torah's Chaim. And that's why we say, V'chaye olam nota b'sochein. Rabbi Chananya ben Akashi Omer Otsa HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakas Yisrael V'chicha chirba lahem Torah mitzvot shenemar Adonai chafetz aman tzidko yagil Torah v'yadir.